Thanks so much for coming out. You'll hear from, you good? Okay, sorry. You'll be hearing from Tom Hutchinson in a minute. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. This is an important chapter that we're about to enter, perhaps, and we're looking for your feedback today and your input, because without you guys, we're not doing any of this. So we appreciate your time, and most importantly, we're going to appreciate your feedback. So thanks again for coming, and we'll catch you afterwards.
Thanks, Brad. I'd like to extend an additional welcome for everybody coming out and helping us along this process. I want to thank you for participating in Phase 1, and we hope that you're satisfied with the outcome of those projects. For those of you who are here for the first time and weren't here for Phase 1, welcome to this to the process and for us to improve Tavistock Country Club. You know, our goal is to make this the very best club, exceed your expectations, and create great value for you, your family, and your guests. Full disclosure, today is about gathering information. No one's selling anything, and you're not voting on anything. Today is all about the presentation and gaining information. This will allow us to continue on to the next step and come back to you with presentation. And most of you all remember the pretty picture book from Phase 1. We need it, the information you hear and comment on today in order to get to that stage. Want to make a few introductions. We have from Forest Design, Jim Nagel, long friend of Tavistock Country Club, to talk about our golf course. And from the Chambers Group, we have John Snellinger and Charlie Turner, also longtime friends of Tavistock Country Club, helping us with our projects for the last 30 years or more. At the end of the presentation, we'll have questions. Time for questions, suggestions, and bring it on, because that's what today's all about. All right, we need to hear and gather your input. I want to, perfect timing. Perfect timing. As I was just about to mention, just like church, we're going to ask everybody to silence their cell phones so that nobody is disrupted during the presentation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to John. Again, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Tom. Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's really good to be with you. It's great to see these packed houses. We had a good turnout at 2 o'clock. I think there was about 70 folks or so, and we're expecting another good turnout at 7 o'clock. I'd also like to welcome everyone that's viewing this presentation through our live stream. So you are on camera, everyone. So for those that are watching at home, thank you for joining us. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time out and being here and listening to this presentation. The first one at 2 o'clock lasted about 70 minutes or so, about an hour and 10 minutes. So we're trying to pick it up a little bit, but I would ask you to hold your questions to the end. There's a natural rhythm through this presentation. So just a formal introduction. My name is John Snellinger. I'm Director of Planning and a Principal with Chambers. I'm going to be joined by Charlie Turner, who's Director of Interior Design firm-wide with Chambers, and also Jim Nagel with Forest Design. So we're going to be sharing in this presentation. So I'm just really glad you're here. So just briefly, I just want to go over the agenda, which we're trying to accomplish today. Almost complete the welcome and introductions. I do want to share with you why we're doing this planning and why now. Of course, you all know that this is a continuation of the Phase 1 efforts, and we're going into Phase 2 of improvements here at Tavistock Country Club. I do want to turn back the clock a little bit and talk to you about the planning process and what we've undertaken over the last several months. Really excited to share with you what we have. It's a very comprehensive presentation, but up until this point, we've been working with just a dedicated group of your fellow members, and this is really our opportunity to take it out of the box and share it with you all. I would like to share with you what you told us through the membership survey. This all began with you back in the spring of 2019, and I hope you can appreciate that we've taken your feedback very seriously, and it's helped us craft the priorities that you're going to see today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim and Charlie to walk you through the overview of the club improvement priorities. And specifically, you'll see them up on the screen. Force Design, Jim Nagel, will take you through the golf practice range enhancement plan. We have a couple of options to share with you relative to some improvements there. And then Jim will turn it over to Charlie, and he'll walk you through the member dining enhancements as well as the men's locker room and lounge enhancements. Unfortunately, with change comes cost, so I'm going to pick up and join the presentation again and share with you what the cost for these improvements would be, as well as how best to fund the program going forward to get your thoughtful feedback. I'll then wrap it up with the timeline going forward, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Now, again, I'd like you to hold your questions to the end. During the Q&A portion, we're going to hand out a 2-page exit survey. And I would ask that you complete the survey while you're here. I've done a number of these presentations, and it's really difficult to measure smiles and frowns in an audience. Members might be frowning at me or smiling at me and absolutely hate my guts. So I just want to we have to have a quantitative way to measure your feedback, and we do this through the exit survey. We're going to ask your approval or the direction relative to the 3 components that we're going to share with you. We're also going to share with you the cost, and we're going to ask for your feedback on how you would like to fund the program going forward and what improvements you ultimately think should be included in the plan that we put for membership approval going forward. So that's what we're all about today, and I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. So just real quickly, just a little bit of background on Chambers. Of course, we do have a storied history here with Tavistock Country Club, but the firm was founded in 1899, so we're celebrating our 121st anniversary this year. Headquartered in Baltimore, we do have 5 offices now, including DC, Minneapolis, Dallas, and we celebrated our first anniversary in Naples, Florida. We're a collection of planners, architects, and interior designers. My specialty is in the planning world, so pretty much every day of the week I'm at a private club across the United States talking with boards of directors, long-range planning committees, and ultimately the membership in developing facility improvement programs that you're going to see today. So we've done hundreds of private clubs. Last year we worked in 27 different states, Canada, New Zealand, and Asia. We are the largest planning firm and design firm that specializes in the private club industry, although it's a very small niche market. So we like to have principal involvement in every one of our projects. Now, you can see we've won a number of awards, and as I like to say, if you've been in business for 120 years, someone's bound to give you an award over that time. But what I like to point out to you, although I'm very proud of all these awards, all of these projects started out just as we did here with Tavistock in the development of a plan and ultimately membership approval. So continuing on with the presentation, I would like to share with you why are we talking about improvements here at Tavistock at this particular time. So first and foremost, we are a design firm, but before we talk about any drawings or moving things, building things, or decorating things, we spend the first couple of meetings with the planning committee really just trying to understand the culture here at Tavistock and how we could improve your overall experience. Understanding the culture about how you come to eat here for dinner. What about your improvements out on the practice range and the driving range and such that you've been talking about? And really just trying to understand how we can improve that experience before we start looking at any type of drawings. Now, the 2 key strategic drivers in any private club across the United States are the ones that you see up on the screen. First, members pay a lot of money to belong to a club, and they pay a lot of money to continue in dues to belong to the club. What we're trying to do as part of this program, and all 3 of the elements that we're talking about, is we're trying to increase your utilization here at the club. Because if we can get you coming out to the club more and more, we're going to improve the overall value that you receive for your dues dollars and the relevancy within the family finances. The second is, one thing that's predictable, every year we're going to have normal natural attrition. Whether it be some members move away or lose that value proposition or unfortunately pass away, we have to be in a position that we can attract prospective new members. So we always want to make sure that our facilities and our amenities and our programs or services are at the utmost quality that we can attract those prospective members to replace our normal natural attrition. Now, one of the reasons why you bring in a firm like ours is because we're in clubs every day of the week, and we can share with you what some clubs are doing and being proactive relative to some of the trends that they're looking for out in the club industry. And there's a few that we're going to share with you in the presentation, which we really think are value amenities that you might want to consider as part of this. But again, we're looking for your feedback. Ultimately, we just want to be very proactive and not necessarily reactive to change. And then lastly, one of the reasons why I love working at clubs like Tavistock Country Club is because there's a history and a tradition, and you all feel yourselves as very much thoughtful stewards of the overall club and your experience here, and recognize that the facilities need to be improved to make sure that you keep up with that standing. So I do want to walk through the planning process that we've undertaken over the last several months. It all began back in the spring of 2019 when we conducted a comprehensive membership survey. And I'll share with you some of the results shortly, but that led us into the priorities that you've seen today. Once we had that information, then we began to do our facilities review. Now, of course, we're familiar with Tavistock, but we wanted to make sure that we understood the changes that were made in phase 1 of the program with your kitchen enhancements and the ladies' locker room. So we had our team here do a good due diligence relative to the facilities and to get a good understanding. We then began talking with your planning committee about the various key strategic drivers that I just shared with you on the previous screen. And we also talked about some primary design considerations. What are some of those improvements that you would like to see relative to maybe the dining experience or your practice range experience, and so on. Once we got into that, we then began developing some programming documents and our conceptual plans. Now, rest assured, the plans that you will see today are not the only options that were developed. This has been a very iterative process. Your committee worked us hard, and I'm sure they worked Jim hard as well, on developing some conceptual options for your input and feedback. Once we began to refine the plan and thought we had a good direction that we wanted to then share with you all, we needed to make sure that we understood how those would be funded and what the ultimate cost of those were. So I'm going to share with you how we accomplished that after Charlie and Jim are complete with their presentation. You'll see right now where we are is in step number 7. It's highlighted in red there. It's the informational meetings. Please rest assured, everyone relax. I'm not selling anything tonight and you're not buying anything. I'm just involving you in the process of what we've been working on for the last several months to get your thoughtful feedback to craft a plan that we can ultimately put forth for your approval and embrace. So once we get the information back from the exit surveys, we're going to realign the plan based upon your feedback, put forth a phasing plan and a funding model that supports those improvements, and put it forth to you all for your approval and hopefully embrace. And then we proceed with the membership brochure and development and then the approval process. So I'd like to share with you some of the results of the survey that we conducted back in the spring of 2019. Now, it was about 150 slides that I shared with the board. I've dropped it down to about a half a dozen, but I do think it's very important because you ultimately were the catalyst that provide us with the priorities, and I want to share those with you. First and foremost, we had an excellent response rate. We had 401 surveys that were returned during the specified period of time. That was in comparison to 338 that we had back in 2014. So the survey was very comprehensive. We had various different satisfaction questions, but also a series of questions about potential improvements that you would like to see here at the club. So those established our priorities that we're putting forth for you today. First, we had a good cross-representation amongst the various ages. You can see that we have a pretty solid bell curve relative to the age distribution. Now, one key demographic that we look at here relative to the age group is your under 40 age demographic. And we had about 21% of the membership responding that was in that age demographic. And that's really your target demographic for new members joining the club. So if we're trying to read the tea leaves of what prospective members are looking for, we look a little harder at what that group is telling us. We also look at length of membership, and you can see we got a good cross-representation amongst the various different tenures of membership here. And I will point out that we had 27% of the membership responding that had been members for 5 years or less. That's a very interesting demographic to study as well, because if you're looking what the next 5 years of members are looking for, if you look at what the last 5 years are saying, it'll give you a good early indication of what they're looking for. Not that we discount what our long-tenured members say or older members say. You just look a little harder at what the newer and the younger members are telling you. To dramatize the point, you can see here of the overall in green of our age group, but you can see the members 5 years or less are in yellow. So you can see almost half of our membership came from under the age of 45, with the average age being about 10 years less in age, about 48, than our overall membership. Now, going back to our key strategic drivers and what we're trying to accomplish, we asked, in your opinion, which of the following facilities, if improved or enhanced, will increase your utilization of the club. And you can see overall 47% said practice range addition, followed by 41% bar facility, grill dining at 41, 37% lounge, 34% outdoor dining, and then 32% locker room and lounge. So you can see the number one was our practice range addition, followed by all of our dining experience here as members, and then at 32% our locker room and lounge improvements. So you can see how we listened to you and the priorities and began to develop those for your consideration. Now, I think it's important that you look at the demographics. So we wanted to look at your active Class A members, and you can see it's very similar to the overall respondents in terms of priorities. We also looked at our AGL and our AG40 members, just to give an early indication of what our future members and younger members are saying. You can see overwhelming 82% indicated that the practice range addition would increase their overall utilization, followed by locker room enhancements, and we did have fitness and wellness center jump up at 39%. To go to our second key strategic driver, and which of the following facilities, if improved, enhance, will have a positive impact on the club's ability to attract prospective members. And you can see again, practice range addition at number one at 53%, followed by a host of our different member dining experience at 40%, and so on. So we asked and polled a little bit deeper relative to some of those priority improvements on the survey. And we asked these on a scale of 5 being very important to 1 being very unimportant. So the purposes of the statistics that I share with you today, we combine those that said very important or important. So 60% of the overall respondents indicated that creating a driving range in the wooded area to the left of holes 14, 15, and 16T to provide a full-length driving range was either very important or important. So the reciprocal of these numbers were those that said unimportant, very unimportant, or neutral. So you can see how it fluctuates depending upon the demographics. You'll notice that the active Class A, it's at 55%, but with our AGL and AG40, it spikes to 84%. If you look at our younger demographic, again, our target demographic of new members joining the club, it spikes to 81% important. For our members 5 years or less, it spikes to 86%, much like our next 5 years of members. You'll also see how it differentiates based upon the number of rounds you play on average and also relative to your handicap. The next was looking at expanding the current lounge and bar area to provide additional space for socialization and dining. So you'll see this is a primary objective which we try to accomplish in our conceptual plan that Charlie will share with you in just a few moments. But you'll notice that 60% of the overall respondents indicated that being very important or important. And you can also see the spikes relative to the age group, spiking here 46 to 55 at 81%, and our 5 years of lesser members at 71%. The next priority was aesthetically improving the men's locker room at 59% overall. You can see a little bit more important for our males than our female members. And then you'll also see the spikes relative to the age and the length of demographics. Enhancing the current outdoor covered terrace. You'll notice that this is a priority in our program that Charlie will share with you, but 53% overall said that that was either very important or important. And you can see, again, very similar trend lines relative to the spike in the younger and newer demographic. And then also looking at rebalancing the dining facilities to provide adequate space for adult casual, family casual, and upscale casual dining. In the program that Charlie's going to share with you shortly, we're trying to rebalance the maximum square footage of space that we have on the lower level to really spend your dollars wisely. We're only having a very modest expansion outside the actual footprint of the building. But you can see how important it was to provide these distinct areas for adult dining and bar, also for families, and also for more of an upscale, intimate dining experience. And then lastly, we wanted to improve the men's lounge, bar, and card room area. So you can see 49% overall, and again, a little bit more important for our male members than our female members. So overall, you'll see the membership priorities identified, and I hope you can appreciate that we've responded to you of what you told us was important, and I hope you can see the plans that Jim and Charlie put forth today reflect the priorities that you told us. But they were the development of a practice range addition, also the look at member dining enhancements, including the bar lounge, grill, and outdoor dining space, as well as the men's locker room and lounge enhancements. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim Nagel of Force Design to walk you through the golf practice range development.
Thank you, John, and good evening, everybody. As he said, I'm Jim Nagel with Force Golf Design. We've had the distinct pleasure of working with Tavistock for over 15 years, beginning with the development of a long-range improvement plan for the golf course that ultimately led into the rebuilding of the bunkers and multiple greens and regrassing of the golf course. We've stayed involved with the club through the years with multiple visits, and you can see it seems every time we're back here, something else has been improved on the golf course through tree management or other improvements that are being made. We've worked with the club for a number of years on the development of a practice facility. This isn't something that just came to light in the last couple of years. This is something that we've had conversations with the club for 10, maybe even more than 10 years. And it's something that we see on a number of our projects. Force Design, we've been around for 30 years. It's just myself and Ron Force. We've consulted with over 190 golf courses throughout the United States. We're on a nice little run here with a 10-year period of 8 USGA Open championships of different degrees, whether it's a senior open or a women's open. We also have the pleasure of working at a lot of great clubs within the Gap, Philadelphia Country Club, Lancaster, Lehigh, Manny's, Chester Valley, and many others. So we have a strong presence here in the Gap and a strong presence throughout the United States with working with existing clubs, looking at their golf courses, whether it's restoration or renovation, and more importantly, and something that's really has been growing in the last 5 to 7 years, are practice facilities, and the same thing that you all are looking at here at Tavistock. So the question might be why? I mean, obviously the survey says we need to do something with our practice facilities, but why? You said 401 people addressed the survey. I'm not sure of the current number, total number of members, but to recognize that you have 400 plus members, and if they are golfing members or those that use the driving range, there's no doubt that that tee is woefully inadequate for the number of players or member of golfers here. And even in this photo, you can see it's heavily worn. So that driving range tee is significantly undersized. The distance with which you could actually hit balls, I believe that's 165 yards. So you never really have that chance to truly practice your game. Your juniors are not allowed onto the driving range tee until after 2 o'clock. So their use is limited. If there's one thing that we're seeing across the board at every club, or the majority of clubs, is the family unit and the promotion of the family unit and multi-generational golfers out there playing together. And that includes practice, as well as just quite simply the number of people practicing. I heard a comment earlier today that a pro at a club, when they did a survey, they said for every round that a member was playing there, they were visiting their driving range 4 times. That's fairly significant. A lot of times people are practicing more than they are playing. So we can see the existing facility. It's undersized. It's not able to meet the needs of the club. It does have an impact in close proximity to 9, to 1 tees, and even, I'm sure, the collection of balls here at the end of 2 fairway. So, with the development and looking to the dump, or the 15th hole for 2 different concepts, we know obviously one of the first questions is, well, how do we get there? How long is it going to take? And are we the only ones with this problem? And the answer to the last question is no. But if we leave the clubhouse, obviously we have the drive that heads down towards the maintenance facility, which picks up the road between 12 and 17, comes in behind 16, and at some point it can split off into the woods and either service concept plan number 2, which is a driving range located by the 15th green, and or coming into the dump, which is concept plan number 1, which you will see here shortly. The drive itself is approximately 3/4 of a mile and would take less than 4 minutes in a golf cart. You can either drive a golf cart out there, or the club is already in conversations to have a shuttle cart to take people to and from, which would allow them to take groups of 4 or 6 people out there. Other clubs that have similar scenarios, some you might be familiar with. Philadelphia Cricket Club, some people think it's a long ride, but it's actually 1,800 linear feet. Philadelphia Country Club, and I'm going to show you a plan for this because you might be saying, why is Philly listed? Their driving range is right by the first tee. Come spring of 2021, it will not be. There will be a warm-up area, much like what could be yours. But Philadelphia Country Club will be going to 2,800 linear feet away. Marion, 2,400 linear feet away. Winchester Country Club, outside of Boston, is over a mile away. They drive carts or they drive their cars to get there. It has not impacted its use at all. In fact, the mere fact that they added the facilities, which you will see a photo, increased the use of their practice facilities. Bald Peak Colony Club, another client of ours in New Hampshire, over 3,000 linear feet. Springfield Country Club in Ohio, internal drive the entire way through the property, 3,000 linear feet. And then Congress Lake, another club in Ohio we work with, is nearly a mile also and completely off property. And in not any one of these instances has it impacted the use of those facilities. In fact, in talking with Winchester and Bald Peak, as I said, their use increased. Philadelphia Country Club, as many of you may be familiar with them, over 700 members, a driving range tee that's 14,000 square feet, a net at the end, balls still going over the net, so they can't practice as much as they would like. They can't hit all the clubs that they would like. And so Philadelphia Country Club, and we are under construction, I was visited there today, has taken their Centennial 9, their third 9, which was built in the early 1990s. We're taking 2 par 4s out of play and putting a driving range in out there, and then we're rerouting 9 holes within the footprint of 7 to fit the driving range for them, significantly increasing their usage as well as the hitting area. So you can see here's a club that was willing to significantly alter a significant part of their golf course, of their third 9, to accommodate the needs of the members. And this is just the plan that we are under construction on. I mentioned Winchester Country Club outside of Boston, Mass. All right, did it again, John. Clubhouse is over here. Practice facility, their warm-up course, their new driving range, either through public roadways or internal through the property. And they don't even have a continuous road like you guys do. To get to their driving range, chipping green, practice putting green, and they even had additional land to put in a 6-hole par 3 course. Significant increase in use after this, which was low-lying, small, undersized. The tee was undersized, flat, and flooded often. Bald Peak Colony Club, a wooded area off of their main drive, separate from the clubhouse and the first tee. Multiple driving range tees. Had to account for wetlands here, targets, and then a short game practice facility. As I mentioned, this one was a lengthy drive. They can either drive their cart or they can park cars. There's car parking and cart parking there. So this is not a problem that is uncommon for a lot of private clubs. With the increase in practice, a lot of clubs are looking at whatever parcel of land they might have to develop a short game area, to develop a new practice putting green, to develop a driving range, whatever they can do. The need is there. Concept number 1 is a plan that utilizes the dump only. Modification to the golf course is quite simply an adjustment to the 16th tees to account for a large driving range tee. This driving range tee, and right there is the rear tee on 16, so you can see where it's situated, and it hits backward into the dump. So it's hitting uphill to where you have the elevation change from 15 fairway down into the dump. The driving range tee itself would be approximately 23,000 square feet, or half an acre, a little over half an acre. The size would be 125 feet deep by 190 feet wide. That's approximately 19 to 20 stations across the front. It also would include a synthetic tee line across the entire back of the tee. The nice thing about the ability to get the size that we want is the ability to rotate. So if the first day of the month you're on A at the front of the tee, you should just be reaching the back of the tee by the end of the month, which gives you the ability to have the front recover by the time you get back there. So you're not hitting off of dirt week after week. Multiple target greens set at a variety of distances. In this particular instance, from A, the front of the tee, to we do have a net being shown here, is 230 yards, okay? And from the back is 265. The net is there just simply to capture the drives of longer hitters, but it's reinforced at the back with trees. So that tee does not need to be something 80 or 90 feet or 100 feet tall. It could be lower. We have the trees helping to protect 15. We also have some down along the left side to sort of capture that high hook. And there's a small area here with vegetation that's proposed to protect this outline, which is a wetland, which in both concepts, we would be working around the wetland to lessen the impact, or to actually eliminate any impact to the wetland. 15. You'll notice these light green areas represent existing trees that we would propose to keep. It provides separation between the two holes. We have small copses of trees through here just to break up some of those areas, and in fact, they're kind of thin already. So the reality is, what you see now between 15 and the dump, you would still see most of that once the driving range would be built in there under concept number 1. The only impact you have really is a cart path coming off of 15, and at the pump house, it actually diverts into the wood line, keeping it away from 16 tees, but yet still far enough away from 15 that it has no impact, and you can park in an area between 15 green and the dump. There's actually the cart path that's there right now. It's in pretty close proximity to that. Targets at a variety of distances. The width is 100 yards wide through here, 70 yards wide through here. That's even wider than this area currently on number 15. This is just an artistic rendition of what the driving range would look like. This was just received this morning from the gentleman who was doing these before and after. The one thing that would change is he has the driving range posts as being, the poles as being brown. They and the netting would be black. The fact that you have that black netting and poles blends in with the trees. So the visual impact of these is insignificant. Concept number 2. Concept number 2 accounts for a new hole being built within the dump that would replace the existing 15th hole. The existing 15th hole becomes the driving range. You would hit from a tee situated on top of the existing 15th green, hitting back uphill onto the hole. If you wonder what this would look like, we've got wonderful weather coming here over the next couple days. If you play, putt out on 15 and just turn around. It actually sets up beautifully for target greens because the ground climbs. In fact, we account for this target green being offset because of some of the elevation changes in there. What you see here, these heavy dark lines, do not represent netting or any type of fencing. That's what we call a safety cone, 17-degree safety cone. We try to account for as much bad golf as we can, but that's typically the width that we need to make sure we're keeping things safe. In concept number 2, the driving range tee is 30,000 square feet, so it's even larger. We get greater depth out of it but we're a little bit narrower at the front, but only losing a station, maybe two. The netting that's needed for this concept is primarily up here by the clover leaf, just to protect that. We're only showing that on the plan until this moves beyond the conceptual phase and would go to a company that does the engineering and sizing for driving range nets, because they may look at the tee, the elevation of the hole, and the distance and say, you actually don't need one there. But for right now, we would rather have it represented and the costs accounted for, knowing that it could come out. Because from the front of this tee, A, to there is 240 yards uphill, okay? And it's 280 from B. This area up in through here, this target is 280 and 310 from A and B. You can see these existing portions of trees that remain. Again, we're trying to do everything we can with existing vegetation to provide separation between each of these areas, whether it's 14, new 15 in the driving range, and even proposed planting along the property line here to reinforce the privacy between the two properties here and here. Cart path for this practice tee actually juts off into the wood line and comes in behind the driving range tee. And you can see for the new 15th hole, we have a continuous path from tee all the way to green. The hole would play from the back progressing forward, 345 yards, 315, 285, 250, and 200. The hole is set up to be a strategic short par 4 with bunkers that if you were to carry, there is a speed slot that could get you closer to the green, and yet if you were to play away, you'll have to contend with this bunker and or a longer shot coming into the green. It does become a par 4, so overall there is a loss of yardage and a loss of a stroke of par. Again, when you're out there playing in the next few days or weeks, if we have continued good weather, stop in through here and take a look down through the tree line. You can see through the trees in wintertime. It's a wonderful view down through there. No changes are needed to the 16th tees. Excuse me. The impact solely is to 15, and then the new 15th hole, no impact to 14. Artist rendition of the golf hole. Working with him, we tried to incorporate the mound and bunkers that you have out on the golf course, but he does a good job showing the dump in reverse where you can see 16 green, you can see 12 green, 13 tees, and magically the beautiful blue water of the pond at Tavistock. And that driving range in reverse, which is a pretty good representation of the ground that's out there when you're playing, when you would be looking at 15 in reverse. The question posed to us before the board was, well, what's this look like compared to the other range? Well, so we developed an overlay. So you can see in concept number 1, right here, this outline is your existing tee. So in concept number 1, which is the smaller of the two tees, it's over double the size of the range tee that you currently have. As well as you can see the farthest target would be like hitting balls out into nearly the approach on number 2, and then we're protected by a net. Mind you, it's also slightly uphill. So you have to account for yardage loss there hitting uphill. The width, you can see how much width we have, and then just the overall comparison to the existing driving range. The more significant change is obviously concept number 2. The tee is over double. The targets, not even the farthest target, but the 220-yard or 210-yard target is out into the approach, but the farthest target is actually into the road beyond the second hole, beyond the first row of houses. So significant gains there. And with that, we'll turn it back over to Chambers and Charlie.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm Charlie Turner with Chambers, and I'm going to start to go over the clubhouse improvement. And we're going to start with the member dining enhancements. So before I go to the plan and show you all the details, we're going to talk about some of the strategic design objectives that we looked at prior to developing those plans. So the first one here is, with any of our projects, is to develop a fiscally conservative dining enhancement program by rebalancing the existing square footage with a modest expansion to the footprint of the building. So with most of our projects, this is one thing that we're looking at for rebalancing the casual versus the more formal dining spaces. And in this, we did most of that within your existing footprint, which I'll be showing you as well. Recognizing the member travel patterns to enter the current dining areas, embrace this culture by creating a dedicated entrance close to the current outdoor patio space. So in talking with the committee and the board, it was definitely seen that you guys address entry to the lower level different than going through the front entrance and then down through. So we've accommodated with the plan here. And then really creating distinct dining venues. And again, this is definitely a trend. What we're doing within our clubhouse design is creating these distinct areas. So the first one is really the epicenter of the design is that dynamic bar experience, which also incorporates your grill area as well. And that's definitely more of a casual venue. And then creating an upscale dining area for members that are still looking for that more intimate dining experience, which includes wine features, and I'll point those out to you, but we have a lot of wine lockers and wine display throughout. And then it also has the ability to transition to a private dining experience on select evenings. And then the third of those three venues is the casual dining experience, which I'll show you as well, and we'll go over there. It's very conducive for families with children to dine at the club. And then the next one here is to develop an enhanced outdoor dining terrace with a new trellis structure for added shade protection, as well as developing an indoor-outdoor area, which we're calling the Three Seasons area. And around that, and this is an expansion, the small expansion, around that are folding glass doors, nano walls, if you will, that enable you to have that indoor-outdoor experience. Adjacent to the casual dining room, developing a youth room component for members' children while they're utilizing the casual dining area. So I'll show you what this looks like and what our thought is for placement, but that works really well with that more casual dining venue. Develop appropriate service travel patterns and various service stations throughout the lower level and outdoor terrace to provide efficient service. So one thing that we're very familiar with is that part of your experience of having a great experience at the club is how well the service is served to you. So it has to be functional within the design. So we have the kitchen supporting that, but we also have service stations on the floor that will provide the maximum efficiency for service. And then provide an aesthetically enhanced boardroom, private dining room experience. Aesthetically enhance the lower level lobby foyer area, as well as the member restroom facilities. So we haven't made a lot of structural changes in those areas, but all the finishes, the lighting, carpeting would all be enhanced as well. And then the last component here is address the current deferred maintenance on your main level outdoor terrace, while at the same time expanding the area slightly for added capacity for pre-function event cocktails. So a lot of this occurred based on the expansion of the lower level, but this also helps you from the event perspective as well. So just for reference, and I'm not going to go into this, but this is your lower level area. This is your existing plan. So everything that is not grayed out is what we're looking at. So obviously the dining areas, and then I'll touch on the men's locker room and lounge as well. So what you see here is our proposed plan, and I'm going to orientate you all to the different entries. So down at the lower portion of the plan is the stair coming down to the lower level from your upper main level. So you come down here, you've got the main corridor, the men and women's restroom will stay intact in where they're located, but again, an upgrade of finishes, fixtures, materials, lighting, all of that. As you go further down the corridor, we have a maitre d' desk, a stand, so you're greeted upon entry to the lower level. And then we've created this cased opening. So as you walk through here, the first thing you'll see is wine display, wine lockers. It'll be glass and double-sided and lit. And then on the opposite side of that would be a banquette with seating, and that opens up into this main area, which would be the dining for the grill area. So this is your casual dining experience. As you go further towards the back of the club and getting to the outdoor area is the bar area. And really what this does is create a dynamic 360-degree bar. You have the island in the middle, which can have liquor display and elements on that area, and then it opens to what we're calling the indoor-outdoor terrace, or Three Seasons room. So this would have the ability to have folding glass doors that could either shut or open, so you can get that indoor-outdoor feel. We also have the possibility here of closing this area off totally and having just the outdoor bar and the outdoor experience with the covered trellis area. So going to the outdoors and that trellis structure, all the dashed lines here are that new trellis structure, and I'll show you a rendering of what that's going to look like. We do have the ability with canvas to have some of that covered, so it'll protect you against the sun and rain as well, or you can retract those back and have it open as well. The second entry is over on this side, so the ability to come from the parking lot and go straight into the new design here. And we're calling this the lounge, so having soft seating there, lounge chairs, cocktail drink tables, which will usher you into that bar area. To the left of the grill area is what we're calling the upscale casual dining experience. And this has the ability to feel a little bit different than the bar grill and have that more upscale experience. We've provided for a couple of booths, some banquettes, and then some open seating as well. And I have some imagery to show you of what this could look like. Further to the left is our boardroom private dining room. So it has similar capacity to what your boardroom holds now with 24 people. So you could have a boardroom set up. You could also break apart these tables and have individual dining tables or use it for events. So very, very flexible. And in this design, we did create this corridor, which is mainly used for staff coming from the kitchen from various locations and then getting to the dining floor area and or going to the exterior for service as well. Then going to the right-hand side of the plan, we have your casual dining venue. And we have a collection of different seating elements, a curved booth area right here, a linear banquette here, and then open tables and chairs around the views to the putting green and the course as well. One thing I failed to mention is the wine lockers, which flank either side and really create a buffer between the different dining spaces. And then we have the ability with folding glass doors in each one of these areas to shut off those separate areas. So you can have them totally distinct, or you could open them up for a more open air dining experience. Right to the southern end of the casual dining, we have our youth room. So this would be a place where you could drop off your kid, or after you're finished the meal, they could go into the youth room while you enjoy a glass of wine or a beer, cocktail. But this has various different elements, a lot of video gaming, place where you could watch movies, also active tables, whether it be tennis, air hockey, some of those elements to keep them entertained as well. So what you're seeing now is the overlay of the existing. So everything in red is the existing footprint. And I'll just point out where we've expanded. So The Three Seasons indoor-outdoor area is an expansion off of the back of the club here. And then this area right here, which is hatched, that is expanded area underneath your covered terrace area. So we're using the same column structure and all of that. We're just enclosing that and then expanding here. And then the new covered trellis area is expanded as well. So just to understand that this is really truly a rebalance of dining. We're not gaining a lot of extra seats in totality here, but we're going more towards a casual dining atmosphere. So in the grill, and the grill is what we have on our plan. It's your current Tavistock lounge. We're going from 50 existing seats to 32. The bar, you can see a net increase from 13 to 24, so 11 additional seats there. And then the bar area lounge, there is actually a decrease in this area from 10 to 6. It includes currently your high top area there. And then casual dining, you see a big swing here. So existing 44, and we're going up to 76, so the delta of 32 additional seats. And then upscale, again, that flip as well from 94 to 32. The private dining boardroom is awash at 24. So you have interior of 235 versus 216. The covered outdoor area, existing 32, we're increasing that to 54. So the total is slightly above what you have at 270, so we're increasing by 3, but it's really about that rebalance of the dining spaces throughout this program. So going up to this level and talking about the slight modifications that we have here, mostly focused on your terrace. So the expansion here, which is over that 3-season space, and then we have a small expansion here, which is essentially a lid that will go over that new entry off of the parking lot. So very minor, but this will add for additional space for pre-function up on this level. And the existing overlay. So I'm going to go through some visioning imagery. These aren't exactly your club, but they're concepts that we showed to the committee to really get at what we're thinking for the interiors, and then we will show you renderings of the space. So this is really looking at the entry component, so having that great maitre d' station as you enter in, and then the wine locker, wine display component, having stained millwork with double-sided glass, so you can see into the display, but you can also see beyond to the different dining venues. And then off of the entry, off of the parking lot, having that gallery, that lounge space, which leads you to the dynamic bar experience. And then going to the bar and grill, definitely a more casual experience. You're gonna have no linens. It's gonna be more of this feeling with the wood tabletops. And then the image to the right here is showing that division between the bar space and the dining space. Having a screen wall. On the bar side, you'd have what we call a buddy bar, a little ledge where you could stand behind the bar and put a drink. Creates that slight division, but creates that dynamic experience between the dining and bar. And then an image of the bar, that 360-degree bar, having the component of the island where you can have display, and then really pushing everything up so you maintain the views to the exterior, because that's really what it's all about, is achieving those views. And then the upscale casual dining experience, again, a little heightened dining experience here with upgraded finishes and furniture. And then the casual dining experience, having different seating options with the banquettes, high top tables, but really a great space for families and any members, really. It's conducive and flexible in that way. And then the youth room, which is off that casual dining area. So having a mixture of the video gaming, movie watching, also with the active gaming, whether it be skee ball, air hockey, those elements. and then the wine room, private dining room. So having the boardroom set up, but having the ability to use this for different events and functions and private dining experience. And then that indoor-outdoor connection. The top is showing you the indoor bar, what that could look like with the connection to the outdoor, and then flipping over to the outdoor area, having glass folding doors on top of that bar top so it could open or close. And then having the nano walls, which would be around the 3-season room to open to the outside. And then also we're showing fire pits to plan left as you see it. So having something that's very social on the exterior as well as your dynamic social bar. So these are conceptual renderings that we've developed, and we're showing the vision for what it could be, but all the particulars haven't been resolved. But I think this will give you a feeling for where we're going here with this design. So this is the grill and the bar. So you can see the dining area here in the grill. You can see the wine lockers that flank that room. You have the glass folding door that can shut off the upscale casual dining space, which feels a little bit different than that grill area. And then you really have that 360-degree bar experience, and that's zooming in on that with the connection to the outdoors. Again, raising up all your storage and your liquor display, and then having the ability for lower level liquor display and tap system on the island. And then going to the exterior, looking at that expansion, the trellis structure here. This would be the area that would be expanded under your existing covered outdoor patio, and then your indoor-outdoor 3 seasons room here. And then particular components such as the canvas awning here in the trellis structure that could be retractable, and then having fans, lighting elements so you extend the amount of time you can use that into the evening, and then when it gets hotter or colder as well. And then the casual dining area, having the mixture of different seating elements, different options within that space, and then having the open area adjacent to the windows and really achieving your views for open seating and tables. Okay, so that's the dining area, and then we're going to go into the next component here, the men's locker room and lounge. So again, some of the strategic objectives we looked at: aesthetically enhancing the men's locker room facility with upgrading the finishes throughout the locker area and restroom shower areas, while embracing the historical charm of the space. So we are keeping your existing metal lockers, but we are dealing with that, and I'll show you some photos of how we're going to do that. Recognizing the unique culture of the men's lounge area, aesthetically enhance the space, providing the following improvements: relocating the bar area to a more central location to create additional seating capacity, relocate and expand your cigar locker capacity, relocate the restroom facility and provide a more welcoming impression from the locker area with the usable fireplace and soft seating area. So it's a minor change, but it really opens up the lounge when you get in there. And then upgrade the finishes and furniture with ample TVs while embracing the historical charm of the space. So again, your existing plan here for reference, and then I'll take you to the proposed plan. So here is your men's locker room and wet areas, and again, this will be more finish related, and I'll show you some images of what we're thinking for that. But the main reconfiguration happens in the lounge, bar, and game room. So this is your lounge area here, and your existing bar is located right here. So we're removing that and then creating a really great central bar in the bar game room area. You have some existing wing walls which are located right here, which within that space that we would demolish to really open up that space. And talked about the restroom reconfiguration. Currently your restrooms are on this side as you enter in from the exterior. We're flipping that, creating that space over on this side, which really opens up the area adjacent to your fireplace. So the ability to get soft seating in there, and then expand your cigar lockers on either side of that as well. You get additional dining in this space, and then we would have a countertop, which would be for laying out food, drinks, beverages, all of that. And then as you go into the bar area, again, your central bar here, and your existing shuffleboard table, and then a combination of dining and game tables throughout. So down below, right here shows your existing seating count in that area being about 44, are proposed at 71, so definitely an increase of 27 seats in that area. One thing to note, we do understand that you have a lack of lockers, and we are looking at different ways that we can add some locker capacity within the plan. While we can't find the exact metal lockers that you have, there are other companies that make similar, and we feel we can make that be cohesive in the space. Your existing overlay here in red, so some minor changes. You can see the bar relocation, the wing walls that we're removing to make that one space, and then the flip of the restroom facilities. So some of the visioning imagery. So this is what we're thinking for your existing metal lockers. So we would be repainting those and then adding trim, stained trim, which we think will look very nice, and that would tie in with any of the new lockers that we put within that space. And then when we get to the restrooms and the wet areas, the shower areas, really going with something that's very classic, that will pair up with the locker room area, some black and white tiles, some updated fixtures and lighting throughout. And then as we go to the lounge experience, having the soft seating adjacent to the fireplace, which we're again opening up that floor plan, and then the addition of the cigar locker capacity. And then just really having a great bar. This is not a central bar like you have, but really playing up with the wood tones. It would be lighter to play with the existing wood tones in that space, and some great lighting within that area as well. So we do have one conceptual rendering of the men's lounge bar area. So you can see this is really looking at the corner, looking at the bar, the central bar here. You can see the shuffleboard table, and then the combination of dining tables and then game tables. And then we do have some high tops which are around the bar area. This really, by opening up this room, you have some really great sight lines to the TVs for viewing, and just really creates that social bar experience. So zooming in a little bit further on the bar, having lighting which is going to come from above, but also lamps that would be on the countertop, the wood stained bar die, and then we're showing a copper metal top. So some really interesting materials within the men's bar lounge. All right, thank you. With that, I'll turn it back over to John for cost.
Okay, we're right on schedule from a time perspective. So hopefully Charlie and Jim's presentation got you excited about some or all of the components, but I hope you appreciate the process that we listened to you from the survey and tried to incorporate your feedback into the presentation and the concepts. But as I said before, unfortunately with change comes cost. So I do want to share with you the cost of these various different elements with you. By no means have we developed full-scale construction documents and sent these out to bid. But in order to give a realistic cost estimate to these elements, we developed a pricing set that went to a local general contractor to give us rough order of magnitude cost estimates. So with regard to the concepts for the practice range edition, Jim and his team were able to develop some conceptual opinions of probable costs based upon related projects to give you those options. Chambers worked with a local general contractor that had familiarity working with Tavistock Country Club to develop these cost estimates for the clubhouse components. So these are the priority components that Jim and Charlie walked through with you. The first one is our two options for the practice range addition. So we do have option number one. That's the left of the 14th and the 15th hole or in the dump location. So that is just a shy over $1 million at $1,050,000. Now option number two is the one with the current 15th hole, relocating the 15th hole to the dump area, and that is $1.5 million. Relative to the clubhouse member dining enhancements that we talked about, the new bar facility, the outdoor terrace, the dining spaces, both family, adult, and upscale casual, that's about $3,075,000. And then the men's locker room and lounge enhancements, the aesthetic upgrades to the locker rooms, the new bar in the men's lounge area at about $1,175,000. So these estimates are inclusive, specifically with regard to the clubhouse ones. They're inclusive of all hard construction cost, asbestos abatement, all site work, furnishings, fixtures, accessories, any necessary bar equipment, a healthy contingency, and appropriate soft cost. So really what it comes down to is being able to develop the financial model and how you would like to see this program funded. And this is how you're going to help us on the exit survey that we're going to pass out in just a few moments. But really looking at it, based upon the 2019 survey, 86% of the respondents to the 2019 survey were interested in maintaining your existing capital fee or increasing the current capital fee to funding future capital improvements. So the way that we looked at this is such, and we have a number of different numbers here, and I'll walk you through the various different elements. The current $47 a month capital fee is due to expire at the end of this year. That was funding your first phase, phase 1, for 5 years, and it comes due at the end of this year. If you elect to continue the $47 per month, so no increase to what you're currently paying, that amount will fund $2 million worth of improvements. If you would like to do a little bit more, if it goes another $1 million to $3 million, it would be $22 more per month than what you're currently paying, or a total of $69 per month for 5 years. If you would like to do a little bit more to $4 million, you can see for every $1 million worth of improvement, your monthly increase in cost would be $22 per month. So if you added up all of those elements, taking the most expensive option number 2 of the driving range and say you wanted to do it all, that totaled about $5.75 million. So we wanted to give that option to you, so it would be just around maybe $85 per month to fund everything that we showed you. Now, some financial notes. The above represents payments for our AA, our AGL, and our AG40 members. Obviously, the other membership categories would pay a proportion of dues in relationship to what they currently pay. As I mentioned, the current $47 per month is due to expire at the end of 2020. And the debt component of this plan is based on a 5-year amortization at 3.25%. So again, these increases too, depending upon what you all tell us you're interested in doing, as well as interested in funding, it would be another, just like phase 1, another 5-year period of time to fund all of the principal and interest relative to those improvements. So what we're doing on these exit surveys, and I'll talk briefly to the timeline going forward. Again, this is not a vote. Nothing has been decided. We're involving you in this process. What we like to do based upon the exit surveys is get your feedback. You'll see on the exit surveys that we ask for your opinion relative to the direction on the practice range. Whether you like option number 1, whether you like option number 2, or whether you prefer not to do the driving range, there's a box for you as well. So check that off to give us some direction relative to how to go with regard to the practice range. The next question talks about the member dining experience, and do you think we're headed in the right direction from strongly agree to strongly disagree? And a follow-up question is, how would you like to see the program changed? Again, a similar question relative to the men's locker room and lounge facility. Do you like the direction we're heading in? On the back side of the first page, it lists all of these costs as well as the financial model that I just shared with you. And then it asks you what you would like to fund in terms of improvements. There's a $2 million option all the way up to a $6 million option. And if you would just like the $47 to expire and do no improvements, there's a box for you there as well. And then we ask what you would like to ultimately include in phase 2 of this program that gets put forth to the membership. Would you like to do the driving range? Would you like to do the member dining? Or would you like to do the men's locker room? Check all or none, however you see fit. And on the back side, page 2 just has the demographics. So we're going to collect all of those survey results. Again, I hope you fill them out today. If you take them home, the chances of me getting it back, it gets on your kitchen counter, are slim to none. So please just take a few minutes to fill out the survey. For those of you that are online, there will be a link provided to you to fill out the survey as well. We're looking for all feedback. We're going to take that information, realign the plan, get towards the phasing program, and ultimately come forth to you for a program for your embrace and approval. So with that, Colin and his team are going to be passing out the exit surveys. Again, we have pencils or pens for your completion. And at this time, I'd like to open it up for any questions that you might have of myself, Jim, and Charlie relative to the program. So, yes, sir.
How long is the drive range? How long time is that constructed?
Okay, I'll have Jim repeat that question, but also, if you would, and it makes it easier, you can go up to the microphone that we have there to answer questions so everyone can hear, but we'll repeat the questions. Okay, Jim.
Thank you. Depending on time we start construction, if we look at the worst of the two scenarios, the option 2, we have the ability to start the construction on that golf hole whenever the permission is granted to do so. We can build that golf hole before we would have to take over the 15th hole. So basically, you would not lose your 18 holes of play. Tees can be built rather quickly. You could still even build a temporary tee on 15, build the new tees for the new hole, and build that, let that grow in, let that knit in, and when it comes time to start building the driving range, then we can get started on that. But the reality is with both of those, if you were to start construction, say in the summertime or something like that on the new hole, then come fall, you're constructing the driving range and you're ready that next spring into something more like early summer, something like that. Same thing as if you're going to build it in the driving range, there's no impact there to play other than the 16th tees, which could be built over the winter time when play is significantly lower.
Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions. My name's Jim Myers. I've been a member here over 40 years, and I guess I fall under your demographics. And part of that group, that the opinion doesn't matter as much as the younger guys. There's a lot of us around here that fall in that category. So I've been here over 40 years. Of course, it's never been in better shape in the last 2 years. So what's been going on? Although I'm not in favor of all the trees that's coming down. For me, enough is enough. I don't know how much better the course can get, condition-wise. And it's been great. But correct, and two-part question. In your opinion of the 2 options, you being the expert in this field, what option do you feel is the best option for the club? That's the good part of the question. So what's your answer to that?
My answer to that is quite simply when this challenge was brought towards us to look for a design solution, we discussed the multiple options. I feel it's not in my purview to provide my opinion in terms of what is better. That is ultimately up to the club, because we feel that with the options that were provided, in other words, let's look at these 2 options, given the land that we have to work with and the parameters, we feel that we have provided you the 2 best options based on what the needs for the club are. I don't feel it's in my position to tell you which one I think is better.
Okay, second part of the question, please, is kind of talk about how to get to this facility. And you mentioned other courses, facilities were a mile away from the golf course, that you could drive a car. They weren't interfering with the golf course as it is. And then I know the golf course pretty well. Like I said, I've been here a long time. And the way I'm envisioning it, I'm seeing 6 or 7 holes are going to be affected. In your words, saying the practice range is going to get a lot more play, a lot of activity as a tool to enhance your experience at the club. So there's going to be a lot of traffic going back and forth. And the way I see it, that's going to affect 6 or 7 holes on that back nine of seeing a steady stream of carts or shuttles going back and forth. So that's just a point, I think, if you want to emphasize again, in case I'm wrong, or people who are going to decide whether they like it or not, they need to realize how that's going to impact not just the cost, but your experience of seeing the beauty on the golf course. Like I said, personally, I like seeing trees, and there's no guarantee, you say all this is gonna be, buffered by the existing trees, how do we know 5 years from now, whoever's deciding to keep taking all these trees down on our property, you're gonna say, oh, let's take some more down. And then, I don't wanna be on the second tee and see the net back there on 14.
And I would think as your architect, I could state too, that I don't want to see that either.
So if you could just, if you feel it's necessary, you explain it enough that just what you think that you're gonna get to and from the practice area. And I don't know if people care about seeing traffic going back and forth to save speed. I personally do, but maybe others don't.
I think it's,
You can tell me I'm wrong in my opinion.
I would not say that you're wrong. I think sometimes there's a misconception. When we head into a project, okay, and now granted, Tavistock was different when we did the original construction project because we shut the course down. We regrassed everything. But if you're members at a second club, oftentimes we as architects, we hear, well, we don't want to do this project because of the inconvenience factor. That people have this perception that, my goodness, I'm never going to get to play while the bunkers are being rebuilt or a green's being rebuilt. I've had members come up to me and say, my goodness, I was the one that was against this, and I've played golf every day that the course was under construction. And I don't think that there's going to be this steady stream of constant flow from one out to the driving range. Yes, you're right. The impact is along the road. You can drive the road that's currently there along 10 through the maintenance facility along that road, and then you're picking up the dirt road that is to the left of number 12, somewhat to the right of 17. And once you come across 16, you actually are ducking into the woods and in through there. So 6 holes might be a bit much, but there is a visual impact to those holes. And yes, for the other courses that have done this and the examples that I gave, there were only 2 that I discussed, and obviously there's a third one within this region at Pine Valley where you can drive a car to get to the facility. But any other course that we personally, Force Design, works with that has this internal driving range, it is a golf cart going out and through the property that has an impact to 2, 3, sometimes even more holes where clubs have done this. The feedback that we have gotten from those clubs that have already implemented this type of work is that in some ways it is a non-issue in terms of this disruption to play.
Colin, I believe you're directing questions with the microphone, so.
Okay, do I need that thing? All right.
I'm Richard Nussing. I like Jimmy's been here for over 40 years.
With the yearly assessment that you're talking about. All right. With the yearly assessment that you're talking about for the driving range only, has consideration been given as to the monthly maintenance going forward, or what it's going to take to maintain that as far as increases in our dues?
Operationally and from a maintenance standpoint, the estimates are $40,000 a year for both operation and for maintenance.
40 to 80.
I'm sorry.
40 to 80, depending on what option.
40 to 80, depending on which option.
$9 a month. $9 a month per member. Yes, sir.
Next question, Colin will hand it to you. So, anyone have a question? I can't believe there are no more questions. Question in the back there.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, and I don't want to seem sarcastic here, but the gentlemen both at the beginning of their presentations said they weren't selling anything. But the fact is that if we do nothing, they make nothing. So they clearly have a vested interest in us doing something. That's something to bear in mind. And it's not to disparage you, because everybody needs to make a living, and you guys do a good job. Jim, you did a great job on the renovation of the golf course, and God bless you for it. But one of the things that goes on here with this, like the reliance on the survey, there was never any discussion about what were the costs of doing any of this. So it was kind of like saying, would you like to have a Mercedes-Benz or a Rolls-Royce? Well, sure I would, but you didn't say how much it's going to cost me. And we never talk about how much it's going to cost going forward. And you could say, well, it's going to cost us $40,000 to $80,000. Well, what about the cost of not having that dump? Where are we going to put all that stuff every year? How much is that going to cost? How much is it going to cost us, assuming that all of our employees are fully employed, Do we need to hire more employees? We need to buy more equipment? I don't know. We don't hear any of that discussion as part of this conversation. And even with the expansion of the clubhouse, you know, gee, it would be great to have all of this stuff, but, you know, these are things that we want as opposed to maybe things that we need. One of the things that I've heard repeatedly over the last number of years is that this building needs a new roof at a serious expense. I mean, is that something we need? I would rather see a punch list of give me like 1, 2, 3 things that we really need as opposed to the wish list of things that we would rather desire. I'm not going to tell you, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, everybody's here. We're all grown-ups. You can all make your own decisions, whether you want a driving range, whether you want to expand the clubhouse. God bless you, whatever you want to do. You know, I'm part of that age group that's got 1 foot out the door. But, you know, so all you young guys will be paying those numbers for, you know, like for a much longer time than I will. But, you know, these are things to consider. You know, all this stuff is really great and really nice. But understand, you know, at the end of the day, everybody, and I mean everybody, has an axe to grind. And, you know, these guys are good at what they do. But, you know, think about this. We relocated the bar in the men's grill room. I'm assuming there was a committee. I have a good friend who was a board member who told me that, like, no decision is ever made without a committee and without consulting experts. We relocated the bar in the men's grill room. Now we're going to relocate it again. We built a porch out on there because the first porch that we built to accommodate smoking wasn't good enough. So we built a second porch at significant cost. And, by the way, it doesn't work properly. You know, now we're looking at redoing the dining area again. I don't know, but to some extent, I feel like we're throwing good money after bad. You know, everybody's got an axe to grind, and it doesn't do any of these guys any good if we do nothing. That's all I got to say.
So, thank you. I don't think there was a question there, but just the point.
Here's my question. How much do you make?
I don't, yeah, so just on the process, yes, we did not have any cost on the survey previously in 2019. We have been completely transparent with you all today what the costs are, and we're asking for your input on what you think now that you know the cost. There are options on the survey. If you don't want to do anything, please mark it off. It's all for your consideration. So thank you.
Yes, I was one. My name's Doug. I was a long member on the entertainment committee. And when I saw the plans for the downstairs, one of the things we have that is extremely popular and successful is every Friday night we have live entertainment in that lounge. Has there been any consideration where that would happen in your plans?
Thank you. Not specifically, we haven't talked about that, but I do think there's a lot of areas that could be conducive to that, either the Three Seasons room, or I think we have a lot of space in that lounge area as you come through if you took out the soft seating. So I think there are areas. One of the beauties of the plan is that you have the flexibility to open and close spaces, so I think you could definitely expand to one of those rooms and have a setup of a band or whatever live entertainment you have. So I think it's conducive to that.
Hi, my question has to do with the practice area. You referenced in option 1 that there may be some impact on the tee box on 16, I think. My second question with that, has there been any testing? Is there any concern, any possibility that we have costs that aren't clear regarding disposal of waste and wetlands?
We do know, and the plan identifies where the wetlands are. We have soft costs associated with engineering to permit work within those areas. In terms of disposal of materials or anything like that, we don't believe there's anything on there that we would have to dispose of within the dump. The dump was primarily an organic dump that included trees and sand and sod from the project from years past, things of that nature. The soils themselves, we have a borrow area internal to the golf course property that allows us to get sands that can be intermixed with those soils and to cap this area, and those costs have been accounted for in the cost estimates.
Okay. And the impact to the 16th tee?
The impact of the 16th tee is to simply relocate the two most rear tees to the right to account for the new tee.
Towards
That's
the
the only
15th
impact.
green?
Excuse me?
Towards the 15th green, when you say to the right?
To the right, closer to the 15th tee, but they're still so
Right.
far removed from 15. Yeah.
Okay. And the driving area, all of it would be on the
Internal
opposite
to
side
the
of the
dump.
lake? The lake would be behind the driving area?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Another question? Colin.
I'm sorry, just curious on the option 2 going up the 15th fairway. Is that big new house about to get bombed by practice balls?
Certainly, any process that's undertaken, if it's concept number 2, because of the permitting process and because of being good neighbors, we would have communication, and there is open dialogue currently with that landowner and their new house. The plan accounts for planting of significant vegetation along there. The proximity of the tee, and we were going back and forth adjusting where that tee would be situated, but that tee is situated such that would be very rare unless you have a left-handed golfer on the very front of that tee who literally toes one off the very end of his driver, that we would have any room to hit towards that property. The 17-degree, I didn't, because we're under time constraints, but the plans show that 17-degree cone, which completely stays within this, in the property line and Tavistock's property line, and certainly misses that house.
Another question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, did we give any consideration to putting a driving range at a different spot? I mean, it seems like we're only talking about putting it, or it gave any direction to put it towards the 15th hole. You had mentioned that other courses have rearranged their whole situation to put a driving range in other spots.
I think Woodstock's for sale, isn't it? Woodcrest. The question is, about any other locations, and the response to that is, in terms of working within the routing of the golf course and what would have the least impact to the golf course itself, the dump was the most obvious location. So there had been conversations, and I've put pencil to paper a number of times over the years, but without question, this is the one that impacts the golf course the least.
Can I ask a quick question about the dining areas? It's a very interesting plan, by the way, and I think there's a lot to like about it. But it looks like it would be hard to maintain dining services while it's underway. It's a fairly wholesale, massive change. So have you contemplated the plans for, first of all, the year that it'll take to do it, and what happens while we wait for all the construction to take place, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't necessarily think it's a year, and when talking with the contractor, they think it's about a 6-month construction period.
I'm in the construction business, it's not 6 months.
Okay. Based on the contractor that we talked to, said it. And I'm sure there can be different ways. But in looking at it, I think the benefit of doing phase 1 being the kitchen is that the kitchen can remain in operation. So there's opportunity that you could sequence some of it. But yeah, make no mistake, there is going to be some disruption to the membership. You can look at servicing out of the ballroom. We can look at how we can use the various different areas. But we're thinking during that time frame of construction, whatever it might be, that there will be some disruption, but we'll try to minimize as best we can.
This is a comment rather than a question, and I know the board has heard it and considered it, but I just wanted to say it out loud, and that is that I think your chances of success and in generating positive response from the membership will be very much increased if the membership is not obliged to vote all or none. In other words, if the membership has the opportunity to vote for various parts of the project. I appreciate that option is on this form, but for me, it will be very important that it's also in the voting process, actual voting process.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment, and that's all yet to be determined. We really wanted to have these sessions to figure out what members wanted based upon now knowing all the facts, and then make that decision based upon what we received. So thanks for the feedback. Any other questions? Colin's walking around with the mic. Okay, with none, oh, sorry.
I have a question. I think the existing range is inadequate. I agree with that. But if we widen it and make the current number 2 hole a par 4, and make the hole out there the area for the driving range, and put a net up there that would allow traffic go between 2 and 3, and then extend number 6 to a par 5, so you don't lose any holes and be a lot less expensive, unless there's something I don't see there. Any comments on that?
I'd have to think about that one. One of the bigger concerns, so the question was, if you could not hear, the question was that there's no doubt that the existing driving range is inadequate. What about expanding the existing driving range tee and extending the hitting area out towards number 2 green and number 2 fairway, building a net, and correct me if I'm wrong, building a net out there so golfers could go from what would be a shorter par 4, number 2, drive behind the range net to number 3, play number 3, and ultimately look at a way of extending number 6 to play that as a par 5 so we don't lose par. That is something that certainly could be investigated. I would think one of the concerns that we've had and the feedback that we've received through this process, and this has been going on longer than just the last 2 years in the driving range, is the outward visibility of a net. With houses on the end of the driving range on number 2, we're not talking, and the elevation change, we're not talking a 60-foot high net. We would be talking something in excess of 100 yards, because now if you say we're going to put drivers in people's hands, hit from an elevated tee downward, they could lift the ball easily over that net. So that might be one of the issues. Not saying no, but that would be one of my first concerns from the very beginning. Yeah. Elevation's not working to our advantage there, nor distance still.
I'd like to thank you all for being here. Appreciate your feedback. Please turn your exit survey to Colin.